Back America, I'm Hugh, joined by Dr. Michael Oren, fellow at the Wilson Center, and of course, former ambassador of Israel to the United States, and a good friend of the program. Dr. Oren, I got to tell you before we get to the serious stuff that Dwayne believes that your technical skills, combined with my technical skills, equal the ability to plug in a power cord. I just want you to know he doesn't have a high
I
opinion.
think he's exaggerating. I don't think we ever. I think
I
tying
do.
his shoe is probably more like it. Go ahead.
All right, let me begin with the announcement by the defense minister last night and then the prime minister today that there will be a new corridor in Gaza, the Morag corridor. What is that aimed at doing, Mr. Ambassador?
I think it's aimed at sectioning off Gaza. Sectioning of Gaza with certainly one express objective, maybe an implicit objective. The express objective is to divide Gaza in a way that Hamas cannot transfer arms and gun people and terrorists across various sections of Gaza. Because if you remember during the ceasefire, Gazans who had lived in the north and had been displaced to the south were allowed to return home, but among those displaced returnees were a very large number of gunmen, large number of terrorists. So that's one. But the second rather implicit goal, and the defense minister has intimated as such, that if Hamas does not release hostages, Israel will begin to attain territory. And I must tell you, I'm fully on board, and I have been fully on board for many months now. There was a former left-wing general named Giora Island who came out with a proposal last year saying we are playing Hamas's game. Hamas is negotiating ceasefires for hostages. We should not be negotiating ceasefires and release of Palestinians for hostages. We should be negotiating the release of hostages for Palestinian land, because the only thing Hamas cares about is land. And so basically, this is going to be a simplistic way of saying this. If you don't release all the hostages by Tuesday, on Wednesday, we're going to annex huge parts of Gaza Strip,
Well,
and then see how that works.
I also read with great interest the subtitles in the interview that Gadi Taub did with Prime Minister Netanyahu. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that yet. It seems to me that the Prime Minister was very blunt that Team Biden was increasingly non-supportive of Israel as the year and a half went on of the war, but that Team Trump is 100% behind Israel. So Israel can do things now that they couldn't do when Joe Biden was sort of in office.
And that's true. It's also true of world public opinion. No one's really focused on Gaza at all. Have you noticed it's completely dropped off the headlines? And, it's going to be a type of Zen situation. Because if Gaza implodes and no one's there to see it or watch it, it didn't happen. And that's increasing. There's been very intense bombing going on in Gaza in the last few days. You scarcely read about it in the Western press.
A third headline, revenge killing of Hamas policeman adds pressure to the group. It's about the Abu Samra family in Gaza executing a Hamas policeman after one of their own was killed. That's the sort of thing that tells me Hamas is losing its grip. Is that what it says to you, Ambassador Oren?
Yes, and it's roughly analogous to what's happening to Hezbollah in Lebanon. Hezbollah has been degraded, significantly degraded, and all the factions within Lebanon who have a deep and moral grudge against Hezbollah are now taking it out on them. And Hezbollah is cowering. And I make a prediction: you will see Hezbollah heads being knocked off one after another in Lebanon. And the same thing's going to happen in Gaza. Hamas has been degraded, and it has tortured Palestinians, has oppressed Palestinians now for 2 decades, and it's going to get its comeuppance. Now, this particular policeman belonged to a tribe, and this particular tribe has long been at loggerheads with Hamas. That's not new. Israel in the past tried to appoint members of this tribe to be local governors in place of Hamas. It didn't work. Hamas assassinated those people. But now the members of that tribe, and not only the members of that tribe, sense that Hamas is on the ropes and cannot respond the same way. Now, that's why you had these rather large, still not huge demonstrations against Hamas in the Gaza Strip last week. One of the major activists in those demonstrations was tortured, shot, and thrown off the top of a building by Hamas, and a little note attached to his body saying, "Don't mess with us." But I think it's still the beginning, and it is interesting.
You will
It's an
remember
interesting
well.
dynamic.
You may have been Israel's ambassador to the United States when the Sunni awakening happened in Anbar province. Is that what we're
Yep.
looking here? The tribes have just had it, and they want to go back to taking care of their own and making money.
Basically, it's not as if they love the state of Israel. They're not getting up in the morning and singing Hatikva. It's not even that they're saying that we don't really want terror anymore, that we object to October 7th on sort of moral grounds. They're objecting it to on, I would say, casuistry grounds, which is the sense that, you guys attacked Israel on October 7th. This is what happened to us. So it was a mistake. That was a mistake that they killed 1,200 Israelis, but it was a mistake that we have to pay the price for it. And okay, be that as it may, it's an interesting development because it tends to suggest that the more Israel ramps up military pressure on Hamas, not only might Hamas relinquish hostages, but Hamas then exposes itself to the rising malcontent of the Gaza population. And the one big drawback here is that the protesters don't have guns, and Hamas still does. So I was asked today by an interesting, I won't mention her name, an interesting observer, and asked me, should Israel be giving guns to the opposition to Hamas? Interesting question,
Huh.
right, Hugh? And
Huh.
I said, no, not yet, because the minute these people are perceived as collaborating with Israel, they will be delegitimized and they will be rendered vulnerable. If they're going to have to get guns, they're going to have to get guns on their own. One assumes that the Gaza Strip is still flush with guns, and you can steal them, you can procure them. But I think Israel should be hold back and not risk tainting these demonstrators with the collaborationist stamp.
Last question, Ambassador Oren. I spent the first segment covering the details of the deployment of the B-2s to Diego Garcia, the tankers to Diego Garcia, the anti-ballistic missile defenses to Bahrain, the A-10s to Bahrain. Basically, the second carrier group is off the waters of Iran now, and Donald Trump has repeated his threat. You can do it the hard way, you can do it the easy way. Do you think we're on the point of the United States moving against Iran?
I do. And that seems to be the message coming out of Washington. And certainly the hope coming out of Israel. But Iran, they're smart. And they're great negotiators. They're great market negotiators. And they will publicly say, oh, we won't negotiate under pressure. But privately, they'll get back to the president and say, okay, we're willing to sit down and cut a deal. And there the great danger is, first of all, you're going up to the Iranians, who are the best negotiators in the world. And two, they're liable to secure an agreement which is only marginally better than the JCPOA of 2015. And they will proceed to cheat on it and lie about it. And we're back to square one. The most important thing is, if there is to be a negotiative process, that Israel be at the table in one way or the other, and that the goal of those negotiations should be not once again to kick the nuclear can down the road, but to dismantle entirely the Iranian nuclear program.
And make it verifiable. Dr. Michael Oren,
Yes.
thank you. Follow him on X at Dr. Michael Oren. He's with the Wilson Center. He's with the Free Press. He's everywhere, and we're very, very happy when he can join us here on the Hugh Hewitt Show. Thank you, Dr. Michael Oren. Don't go anywhere, America.